Welcome to the first of many special episodes of the Working Audio Tools, where this week we are joined by one of our resident guests, Nicholas from Panorama Mixing and Mastering. Is going to be joining us regularly on the podcast. We're good friends with Nicholas in the background, and we have plenty to pick his professional brains about. If you haven't seen Nicholas's channel, I'll link it in the description below. Do check it out. As we've said before, Nick has this incredible way of analyzing audio and analyzing what we do and analyzing the business, and has some very intelligently thought out plans and concepts that no doubt we'll get into in this video. Speaking of which, Nicholas does also have an incredibly informative mailing list, which we will also link in the description below. If you haven't signed up to that, I genuinely urge that you do. It comes out, every 2 weeks or something, and it's full of nuggets of information that will help you run your business if you're trying to do this professionally, help you with your mixers and masters, and just gives you a very unique insight into mixing and mastering and what we do. Welcome to the show, Nick. How are you?
I'm doing beautifully well. You guys?
Good. Overwhelmed as always, but, it's Paul Third for you. I wouldn't be Paul Third unless I had 1,001 things and like 18 plates spinning at the time. Actually, yeah. I'll give you an update. I don't know if you have seen my IG today, but I thought, I was like, right, okay, Paul, you've got loads on this week. You've got loads on. No distraction. And then Laura sent me a photo, and I seen the box, and it was Hyphaman. And I was like, Hyphaman Unveiled.
I did see that, yeah.
Both Hyphaman Unveiled and like another one as well. So this week I've had the peacocks in, the headphones too, and I've got 3 more Hyphamans to do. And I promised myself that no, focus. So I don't know, I'm going to try and maybe once, I'll pick a time in the week to take one headphone, because normally I'd be like, I need to try them all right now. But I'm trying to get better, because I need to, if I'm going to manage this as a business, I need to time manage better. And this is really kind of what this is going to be. This episode is going to be a lot about this week, because we want to pick Nick's brain a lot about, getting clients, pricing, and, how to really, time manage your week and how to really run a professional mixing and mastering business. Because it isn't just as easy as going, yeah, so I'm going to get myself a pair of Rockets, I'm going to get myself a DAW, I'm going to get myself a Focusrite Scarlett, I'm going to get myself an SM7B, and yeah, I'm going to have a professional studio, and that's it. Build it and they will come. Wayne's World. It is not as, me and Ed can vouch, it's really, really not as simple as that. So, Nick, you are an avid watcher of the podcast, which is one of the reasons, again, why we know this is going to work so well. So, from what you've heard us speaking about recently, are there any things that have kind of taken your attention? Anything you'd like to dive into? Anything you'd like to discuss, in detail? What are your thoughts on kind of where me and Ed are right now?
Where you and Ed are is you are in the stage where I think everybody experiences in cycles throughout their career. Doesn't matter whether you're starting out or like a decade in or 2 decades in. It's where you're frantically trying to calibrate direction. It's like,
that's a great analysis.
It's like, we've got, at the moment, you have a lot of really good things going for you. You've got everything set up.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You've got a lot of eyes and attention. Like that's really good to leverage. That's beautiful. And then you're trying to connect the dots between your skill set in there. And it's like, okay, how do we get that all to sort of link up? So I think, at least from what I've heard on the pod, the probably biggest challenge is focus, because like,
that's a reoccurring theme, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah, that would be the main thing. Like, I think this week's episode that dropped was about producers not valuing mixing engineers.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to it and I'm like, okay, I get the sentiment. I'm not going to rabbit hole that because you've already spent an hour on it. But I go, how does the focus there support your goals? Like, in my mind, if I look at it and I go, do you know how many producers master their own track or say mastering is just making it loud and stuff like that? And I'm like, don't care. That's not who I serve. So it's null and void and it's off my plate. And then priority-wise for business, it's like, okay, you've got to focus on the mixing thing. Cool. And you've also spoken about joining teams and all the logistics around it. I was like, okay, well, what do you want to focus on there? That's where I'd be doubling down every effort. And that's obviously because I'm a big proponent and been a big supporter of it. But in terms of that's where I'm like, where your attention sometimes gets split, and it's, frantically trying to get everything together.
So in terms of focusing, what would you be focusing on if you were in our position? Because we've discussed the idea of the one thing extensively, and the reality is it's just not totally possible. I tried it. I packed in all my jobs to just focus on mixing, and it hasn't worked yet. Because the reality is London is expensive. I've got to live. Yep. Paul's reality is he's got a day job and a family
mortgage,
to support.
family, kids, yeah.
Yeah. And look, for when I'm saying that, I'm not saying you can't have those other things. Like for me, I've got my YouTube channel, I've got the podcast, I've got other things I do outside of the studio. It's just that in the world of mixing is to be focused on, like, especially on the business side, drilling down on one thing and going deep on it and establishing it. Like, I'll give you an example. You know, when you guys were going back and forth on mixes, developing your skill set there, that is a focused, concerted effort to go, okay, our mixing chops need to go from A to B. At the moment, in terms of leveraging that, it's visibility of like finished projects going out. I know, Paul, you just had a mix go out last week, which was released on Spotify to the world, and I was cheering you on because I'm like, this is incredible. This is what people need to see. They need to see points on the board. They need to see records going out, because that is social validation. So you've got the eyes, you've got the skills. When people see it's actually a real thing where people are releasing and they've used you, that's where, in terms of a framing standpoint on brand, people start to go, okay, these people are making waves. They're serious.
Yeah, we've taken a leaf out of your book because you're very good at doing that, and you've mentioned it in a video, I think, where you do the social post, you credit the producer, the artist, everyone who's worked on it in a very itemized, clear format, and hopefully other people reciprocate that, and people are doing the collaboration thing on Instagram, which is great. And that's a good way of showing exactly what you're doing if you believe in the sound of the result.
So out of curiosity, just to like start pulling out some stats of the listeners, how many releases publicly are on your belt, on Spotify or on YouTube, that are visible and people can see and know about?
Ed's got way more than me. I don't even want to say, because it's like pitiful. But again, that's something that I'm working at. Again, I understand it's a long game. You know what I mean? I need to be patient. That's why recently, this week, again, I think these two have seen it, that I put out a post, and I'm taking a risk, but I know it's the right risk to take because many people have told me to do this, where I'm basically going and advertising myself to Scottish artists and saying, I'm going to give you all one free full mix release. Like, we're going to produce it, record it, I'm going to mix it, I'm going to master it, we're going to put it out. And then from there, if you had a good experience and then you want to feel that experience was good enough to pay me in the future and we can work together, then for me that's going to be something that's worth the risk taken. But at the same time, as Nicholas, what you've said there, even if they're for free, I'm socially, I've got these records that are coming out. So locally, and people in Dundee, Perth, and blah blah blah, they'll start saying my name. Oh yeah, I've released this and I worked with Paul Thorne at Taysom. Then all of a sudden the little words of mouth start building up across Scotland, and hopefully I can build on that. So if I do that for maybe 6 months, I'm thinking 6 months would be where I would probably cap it. And then I also just had a very good call today with an artist that I had already done a demo with, but I have so much faith in the potential that Amy has that I says, right, I'm going to offer you a 4-track EP and we're going to work at it. And because I've got a feeling that she's good enough to get signed. And Jason Joshua, and again, Nick, you've talked about it as well, about finding your vessel and finding that one person, artist, them, they, whoever, that's going to be able to get you in front of other people and say, you know what, here I am, they are successful, I worked with such and such, and all you need is that one artist that you can almost latch on to, and then from there build. So Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing this week. Even like doing reels. So even like again, I had a vocal session to finish a single on Saturday. What did I do? Ensured when it was done, I was like, right, okay, here's a reel. Even just talking about the vocal booth, and so if people see that, they go, he's got this GIK vocal booth that's behind me. He was doing a session, right? Okay, he's got the Austrian Audio OC818. He's got the Fairchild. You know what I mean? All these little things that say to people, right? He's got the gear, and he's working. You know what I mean? He's trying to combine all of those things. So when people have a very small, quick snapshot of you, what they leave with is, he's an audio engineer and he's working right now. And then you kind of see where that takes off. So yeah, I've been working for exactly what you've said there, Nick. I know that's where I need to go. But just now it's credits on the board that's under 10. And it's like it's a deep cut, but I understand that there's reasons behind that, and I'm my own worst enemy, and I'm to blame for that. I could have had way, way, way more records on the board if I had done what you said, Nicholas, at the start, which is focus. If I wasn't focusing so much on reviewing plugins that I didn't need to review, if I didn't focus so much on trying to figure out audio science things that I didn't need to figure out, you know what I mean? I could have been putting that in to get in and working with artists. So
you did need to figure them out though, because that's who you are, and you're Paul Third, and you're the mix engineer you are.
Yeah, but it elongated the journey. It delayed the journey.
Yeah, but it also gave you leverage, because through that you've built audience and credibility with what you're doing, and that's
now's
an important part of it.
Now's the time, as countless people are telling you, now's the time to not get 5 sets of headphones in a week.
I know.
And to mix on 1 or 2 and nail it. So I think you should not look at more than 1 set of headphone a week, and I can tell he's going to have some sleepless nights, but there's 4 sets of Hyphamans left in the studio. I need
the dopamine. The fucking dopamine, man.
How far away are they from Harman? Fucking
Yeah. And I think what you're doing is good. I think the narrative of what you produce with those artists is really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Opportunity visually. So people are going to see artists coming into the studio with demos, and then those releases aren't going to happen for who knows how long. As we know with artists, it can be, we're going to release it next week, or we're going to release it in
I think that's where we're both at. Like, I've got art mixes and masters that I've done, and it's like, guys, can you put them out so I can share them, please?
Yeah. So basically, if people sort of see the arc of these artists coming into the studio, it's visual. It's okay. These people in the studio recording, cool. Oh, they're mixing it. Oh, cool. Oh, the release campaign's starting. They've got a connection to it through your profile, and they'll see that. And I think that's an important sort of like in the immediate future, like now, to use so people can visually see that. It's something I'm curious about you guys, because you've been on YouTube. You've had to put out content and do content, but then it's been part of your own sort of discovery into the craft. How do you feel about jumping into content for the business side of getting awareness and getting your name out there?
That's me in both your plan, is it? It's funny you say that, Nick, because this week I'm waiting to record the video. So I think it's now 3.5 months I have not posted on my main channel, and it was intentional.
Yeah.
To the point where this afternoon YouTube sent me an email to say, and it was like, "Are you planning on coming back? It's okay to take a break." I was like,
really?
Okay. Yeah. So
Not
they must.
I got one of those videos.
They must measure the last time you've uploaded. So, but yeah, it's going to be
no. What they need is your ad revenue, Paul.
No, totally.
Times are tough for YouTube as well, apparently.
It's very tough. But either way, I think for me, I just wanted to make a video coming back to talk, basically to kind of say to the audience, look, this channel's going to change slightly, where it's all going to be about me being an engineer. It's if you came to this channel for like fucking reviewing plugins and like doing all the geeky stuff that's all rabbit holes, that's not me anymore. I do have a lot of product reviews to do, but I'm only doing product reviews. Or
I wouldn't even announce it. I'd just do it. We know from the podcast, episodes where we focus on us, tank. No one cares. A handful of people do. The episodes where we speak about a specific conversation that is of interest does well. So you announcing that probably won't do the algorithm any favors, and then just get on with it and do it. And then also, you're not pigeonholing yourself if you change your mind later.
I wholeheartedly agree. And the reason why people don't give a shit about people sort of pontificating or trying to figure out what they're doing in their own world is
pontificating.
Oh, thank you. I got 26 out of 50 on English when I finished high school. So how's that? That word might have been used in the wrong context completely, but it is a cool word, isn't it? But anyway, that's not the point. When you show value on your YouTube channel that is reflective of other people's values, it does really well. And it's the same with the whole sort of thing I've been harping on about right now, about like, you want to show the values other people value themselves. They want to release records, so they want to see you working on release records. They've got demos on their phone that they've done on a voice note. They want to see you taking something from a voice note to a finished record. They've got a guitar and a Rode NT1A. They want to see you using a U47 or, you know, like using some real, like, I don't want to say real gear. I don't mean to be demeaning in that sense, but like they want to see a real studio because they've sort of got a little bit of access to it and you can open up that world for them. So it's just mirroring values. That's what it really is. And people might misinterpret this as, you social media, you need to be posting, you need to be a content creator. It's like, no, if you're mixing records and you're in the studio recording stuff and doing work, it is as simple as whatever the hell is in front of you is what you're doing. And if you show people that, it's not like you're taking a complete left turn. It's like literally there in front of you.
Yeah, I agree. And it's quite difficult because when you've been in the YouTube space for that long, that's why I had to walk away from it for like 3.5 months, was because there's a lot of ego involved and you don't realize how much you trap yourself into that. Because there's a YouTube audio world that exists and we exist in it. And I was in a place where I was just constantly watching other YouTube creators, watching what they were doing, watching like angles that I could come in and be like, that's fucked, right? Maybe I could like shout that out and like call that out, and maybe I could do this and do that. And I just had to, taking a step back, it allowed me to go, this is such a negative distraction. I'm not putting myself out in a positive light to people. I look like a YouTuber because I am a YouTuber. So for me, my plan now is to say, right, instead of YouTube controlling me, I'm now going to take control of YouTube, and YouTube is going to be a platform for me on my main channel where everything revolves around me working in the studio. Jeremy from Recording Studio Loser, he's a massive, massive influence on me, and Nick as well. Like, see what the two of you do perfectly, which I think not many people do right, is you make content around being a engineer. That's what I love about the two of yous. The amount of videos, Nick, you've made where it's like, right, I'm doing a mix or I'm doing a master right now. This didn't really work. This is what I did to do it. This release is out right now. Go check it out. It's a really, really, really good way of educating people and giving them what they want. But at the end of the day, they walk away and go, that guy's a working engineer. He's not just a YouTuber that's making, music for videos. It's the other way about. You know what I mean? Like, the content is almost documenting the mixing and the mastering, which I think is what I need to do, and I think what Ed needs to do. So what Ed's doing right now with his studio journey, again, it's not like it's taking Ed away from being the interface review guy. It's being like, no, I'm an engineer, and right, I'm going to show you how you can take a bedroom and turn it into like a professional studio. Here is the knowledge I know, the understanding I have, and it's these things that if me and Ed change the way that we see YouTube and how it almost controls the content we make, then I believe we could be in the place like you and Jeremy, where we are seen more as engineers rather than YouTubers. It'll be difficult because me and Ed have built, such a strong perception of ourselves from YouTube, but I am very, very hopeful that with enough time and enough hard work, pivoting away from, the stereotypes of what we used to be, I think that we could be in a place where we're quite similar to yourself and Jeremy.
Hey there, Ed here. You may recognise my voice from doing all the other DistroKid advert segments. This time I didn't want to just do a typical advert talking about stuff to do with DistroKid. I actually wanted to give you my feedback about the service because I genuinely do use DistroKid for uploading my music. And I know Paul does, and it turns out Dan Worrell does as well. I've used DistroKid since 2019. As you can see on the screen, I have 6 releases so far. It is genuinely super easy to use. The tracks get into Spotify within 24 hours, which is remarkable. Apple Music takes a little bit longer. I'd suggest giving that 10 to 14 days. The hyperfollow links are really useful for advanced promotion of your tracks, and the promo cards are really great visual aids for social media promotion. Ooh, I particularly like that one. DistroKid collect all the royalties from your streaming services, and here you can find an itemized breakdown of where all your income has come from. There's also a DistroKid referral where you can save your friends $10 per sign-up by creating your own VIP referral link. Here's a question for you, Nick. How much cross-pollination is there from YouTube to your mixing and mastering business?
I think directly, measurably, not a great deal. However, and this is the big however, there are a lot of quiet viewers who are very, and by a lot I mean I'm astounded by the amount of working like audio professionals working on really good records with incredible credits that are watching the channel. And also, just as a reference, my Latin Grammy, the producer, found me through YouTube.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. There have been a lot of really good, successful records I've worked on where the engineers have found me through YouTube. But those are like once every 12 months.
Okay.
Every 18 months. So that's sort of
if you're getting a connection every year that's leading to something like a Grammy or an album, then it's worth it on some level.
But I think what Nick's kind of leading to very rightly is that, yeah, it's an avenue, but I think what me and you were maybe doing, Ed, is we were using that almost as our main vehicle to, get the work. And I think that's what you've shown is it doesn't work that way. You can use it, still have it there as an option, but not as a main vehicle. No.
It's a good supporting character in your online presence. It's not the main character. The main character are the records you work on. When you think of any big mixers' names, especially the ones you guys talk about, you don't think about the plugins they've released or the headphones they've got. If you're thinking of Manny American, you don't think of the mix with the masters they did and go, oh, I'm going to mix with them because they did mix with the masters, or they released a set of headphones, or they made these YouTube videos, or they featured on this. That's not why you think of the actual records they've worked on. And those records carry more weight than 99.99% of engineers will ever have the opportunity to work on. But, and this is something I've discussed and I've witnessed at length, it's not the records themselves that carry the weight, because there are a lot of engineers that have good records under their belt but don't keep getting them. It's the relationship and competency or competence you bring to a project working on records like that. So the records, the teams I'm a part of, where they're big projects, they're label backed, it might be an album, there'll be 7-8 producers on it. There'll be 3-4 mixing engineers on it. The A&R will be liaising with me as the mastering engineer, and I have to be able to take on a lot of pressure with that. Not like pressure like, oh, this is all going to fall apart if I don't get my shit together, but like they'll send a mix. I think it was like a week out before an album release. I'm not going to say the name of the album, and they're wanting to add 2 extra tracks into the album, and they need it mastered. So it's like, yeah, you're going to get your shit together. You're going to work on it. You're going to be able to liaise with the mixing engineers if anything's wrong and get your shit together. And what those larger projects sort of signal, if you do your job well, is all the other professionals who work on the record, all the other producers, all the other mixing engineers will either see you in 2 lights. This guy's a dick and he's not competent in his job and he can't get his job done, or this guy's somebody the label could rely on, the artist relied on, he pulled through, he did his job right. And that's typically what you want to, that's a taste you want to leave in people's mouths. So for you, Paul, running like a parallel sort of anecdote here is you bring an artist through the studio and you have a responsibility there to serve them and make a great record and give them a good time and really make it a positive experience. What they go then and say, they might have a drummer in the studio. They might have a couple guitarists or their friends or some backing vocalists. What those other people say about you are just important as what the main artist says. And if that drummer remembers, Paul was able to get it wasn't my record. I was drumming for a friend of mine on their record, but Paul really made my drums sound amazing. He listened to me. He was conscious of everything I needed. That's the sort of competency and reputation you want to build in working on those records or working on anything you do. So yeah, like I said, that the YouTube is sort of a supporting character. It allows people to see your value, but you really want a lot of your business is going to be built up off people who experience it, and often they can even experience it indirectly.
So Nick, in terms of pricing, Paul and I have discussed this at length, and we ended up going in different directions. Paul's gone for a fixed rate, and that's something very much our good friend MSM advocates. I've marketed that strategy of having, different pricing tiers for different size projects, and it's complicated. It's complicated to communicate, and there are other implications. And I've possibly off the back of this, but also MSM's really hammered home various things, basically decided to go down the route of I'm thinking a fixed price, similar to Paul's, because if we do go into business together, I think we need to be in alignment with that. And moving on from there, because whether the project's 10 files or, 50 files, they're still getting the same quality mix, which is indicative of the experience and skill set I have. Now, where I would draw the line is if someone's giving me like 100 files, I'd be like, look, this is going to take 2 days. Can we talk about this? Then we can have a conversation. But I've kind of pendulum swung the other way. I think I'm going to instigate that moving forward. What are your thoughts on that?
I would definitely be a strong one on the project rate. And again, it comes back to client perception. When clients seek mixing or seek mastering, they're going from a start to end solution. Like, what is their end goal? Their end goal is to have a record they can be put in their hand and then get put on Spotify and get released out into the world. They're pretty agnostic to whether it's 4 stems or 100 stems or 1,000 stems. They're completely agnostic to it. They just need somebody who can take them from A to B. Now, in terms of rates to charge, fixed rates, I'd call it project rates rather than fixed rates. I don't put my mixing rates up online. I'm set them in videos and I'll easily disclose them to a client inquiry, but I don't put them online because I like the idea of a project rate. So that way I can, if I see the opportunity there where I won't resent the rate that I offer, I can squeeze down a bit or I can open up a bit depending on what the project calls for. But the first thing is when you're setting a rate is don't resent the rate. That's something I think a lot of people do is they'll set a rate that's slightly lower to get people in. They start working on the jobs and then they go, shit, why am I doing it at this rate? And the reason why I use the word resent is because I think when we're all starting out and we're willing to mix for free, we don't resent that. We're like, we will take anything on and we're open for that opportunity.
Do you know what? This is interesting because last week I had a conversation, and this is the second conversation I've had, words to this effect. Somebody approached me and said, we've got this track, we've had it mixed, but we're not quite happy with it. And I said, okay, what are the problems? And they've said, well, the guys reamped the guitars. We're not happy with how it sounds. We quite liked what we had originally, but he refuses to use those, wants to use his reamp stuff. I said, okay, fine. I'm happy to use your own stuff. I'd rather do that anyway. What else is wrong? They listed some ideas. And I said, okay, this is sounding familiar. I've had this conversation before. Can you send me the track? They sent me the track. Technically, this track is brilliant. It's very well mixed. But I understand what their concerns were. And then they've said, yeah, this guy doesn't want to do any revisions. And I said, how much is he charging? And they told me his rate. And I said, right, this is the same person I've come across before. Refuses to do revisions because he's charging so low given his skill set, which is genuinely brilliant. And I can see why he's frustrated. So the word resentment made me think of this person. And I hope this person realizes that their skill set is incredible and they're worth multiple times what they're charging.
I've already had this conversation with Nick. I remember me and Nick had a conversation about revisions, and it was a very quick conclusion, which is what I do now: unlimited revisions.
Yeah.
Just
get it right, otherwise
get it right,
why?
and they'll come back. It's all about the end result. If the client's happy, they will come back.
I think what I realized this week with my pricing structure was that came about out of desperation. It was, right, I want to target the £100 clients who are going to send me like a beat and a vocal. Why? For the sake of getting a job, for the sake of getting something out there, for the sake of getting £100. Why was I aiming so low? And I realized this, and so I realized some points as well in that whether if someone gives you 100 tracks, you might only actually process 10 of them. So why are you charging them a different rate? Okay, there's more to set up, but with Forte AI that I've been using for Pro Tools, session prep is geniusly quick. So that's not necessarily an issue. And also trying to explain this stuff to record labels or artists who just don't even know what mixing and mastering is and just want a price. All this pricing structure I've realized is confusing. And my marketing campaign that, I've been called out for copying Paul Ashmore. I'll be honest, I did hold my hands up, totally copied him. He knows this, we've spoken about it. All it did, it was hard to pigeonhole. It was hard, there was mixed messaging within that. It was, hang on, these £50 a mix, £100 a track, then there's £500 a track, and then there's £300 a track. It's like, what is he charging? I actually imagine now I've probably confused people away from even going on the website, as well as then, getting the inevitable, do you really charge £50 for a stereo mix? No, it doesn't say that anywhere online, but they've seen pictures and they're confused with the messaging. So it's confusing for people, and that is driving my decision to move away from that. And but personally, I also don't like the idea of going to a website and seeing email for a quote. I know why it works for you, Nick, but if I go somewhere, I want information immediately. It's like, what's this person going to cost me?
Yeah, I get that. I think I get that. I can't rebut that. I think the only justification I make in my head, which could be wrong, is that I go, once somebody's made the decision to go to my website and they get to that section at the bottom, they've already made their mind up as to whether or not they're working with me. In their head. They've went on my Instagram page, they've seen the credits, they went on my YouTube, they went on my website, they've seen the records that I have listed on my website. Like I only have a few, like a little select portfolio, but they're good records, they've got good credits. They'll look through that, and by the time they get to the end, if they're wanting to work, they'll be like, oh, I'm here, I'm already here. I'm going to send a message. I reckon it does hurt me knowing the smarter side of optimizing for click-through or viewer retention. Like, it does hurt me in that sense, but I'm not too concerned because pretty much anyone who... I reckon I've got like an 80% hit rate of anybody who jumps on my email through that website or contacts me, I end up working with because they've sort of already made up their mind.
And that number speaks for itself, so it's clearly working. But actually zooming out on a more macro level, I got so focused on the social media marketing side of it because I was desperate for new clients. What I'd overlooked was, despite having 30,000 YouTube subscribers, 2,500 Instagram followers, and Facebook doesn't exist to me anymore, but you get the idea. All of my work was coming through word of mouth or the podcast, which was surprising to me and Paul when things started to trickle in through the podcast. So the marketing side of it is almost pointless anyway. Is it a case of getting to new clients? Because I have had loads of inquiries, loads of people. And that conversation I had last week about the mix they weren't happy with came from that marketing campaign. So it's not resulted in much work. A couple of things have come in. But it's the brand awareness that I think was useful on that front. However, I would argue that was disproportionately expensive for what I paid.
Yeah, it can get expensive.
If you start to map out every single person that's been part of records you've worked on, would that be an extensive list?
Well, going back to your question about what releases have gone out, individual releases, including my own stuff, are into double digits, 7 of which are my own, but one of those is an EP with 7 songs on. So upwards of getting close to 10 different clients.
10 different clients. And
But what about ones you've worked on as well? Like not just like engineering, like drummed on, performed on.
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, I'm forgetting about those as well. Well, even one that I drummed on and then mixed and then mastered that hasn't come out yet. Yeah, there are things. People are talking. You know, I've had a conversation with a mate of mine who I used to play in bands with, and he's had 3 tracks for me for like 7 months, and they're about to come through this week or next week or something. So they are happening. It's just
Yeah, I'm just sort of trying to like mind map or brainstorm this out in terms of for every release, if you can think of the guitarists, the drummer, the producers on there, how many of them, it just even goes as far to just DM them and be like, hey, loved your work on this record, really appreciate, like, you might not have ever met them because they recorded in a studio that was remote to you and then the artist sent it through, but it's like, hey, really appreciate your work on this record. As an example, I did a master for somebody last week, and the mixing engineer sent a reference which was insane, like 4.6 LUFS, but it sounded awesome. And I had to sweat to like get it up there and sounding better at the same time. And I'm like, I want to find out who this mixing engineer is. I need to find out. So I messaged the artist.
The mix minus 4.6.
The reference master from the mixing engineer was. And it sounded great, so I couldn't fault them. Like, I couldn't say, oh, this is just stupid and Scott. Like, it was really good, and the mix was good. So I finished up the master. I did do it justice, and I think I knocked it out of the park. The artists liked it. But I messaged the artist, I go, the mix was phenomenal. The engineer did a great job. I need to know who it is. They gave me the name, and I go, all right, can you set up an intro? I want to have a chat with them. So I'll get that intro later this week. And I'll be straight up with them. I'm like, you did a great job. Congratulations. Great work. If you got feedback, let me know. They're not my client. The artist was the client. But I'm making that connection through that. Now, if you go through each record you do and you go to the drummer, go to the guitarist, go to the bass, obviously you want to be genuine. You don't want to be fake about it because people can smell bullshit. But if there's something you valued in those records that somebody's performed or done on or been a part of, that's a real connection that can blossom into something down the track.
No, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I'm doing the same actually because it's hard for me because it's locally and again Scotland, again there isn't as many opportunities. There is somebody that I know that I've been speaking to quite a lot. We grow up in the same scheme and stuff like that. And he has all the artist contacts, and just having him. When I put that post up about, again, I'm going to do one free release for brand new Scottish artists and we'll see how we get on. He got me 6 new clients just by sharing it. 6 new clients just by sharing it. And that just shows you, if I didn't have his network and know him, then I wouldn't have got that. And then, as you said, Nick, that got me thinking, right, how many other people could I then network with? And now what I'm seeing it is, I'm almost seeing it like it's almost like a mind map. In itself, it's almost like an ancestry, family tree of going, right, okay, he knows him and he works with them and he knows her and they've worked with them, and then trying to just go, right, how can I fit put the cat in amongst the pigeons and just like try and get into everybody. And it's funny how you say that because that's exactly what I realised this week, and I was just sitting back going, wow, I've got 26,000 odd subscribers. He's not got a YouTube channel, but he has more network that's important to what I'm doing. And it was a great juxtaposition of going, you might think I'm the bollocks, so I've got 26,000 people who know who I am, but locally, everybody knows him. And that's where I need to be. You know what I mean? And it was a great humbling moment for me, and sometimes it's those humbling moments that, for me, make you think, right, I'm not as anywhere near as fucking the shit as I think I am. I need to get my name out there. And obviously that's something that you've done.
DistroKid sponsors the Working Audio Tools podcast, and 30% off your first year subscription can be found in the podcast show notes and the YouTube video description. Hyperfollow is the easiest way to place all of your content in one single place, making finding all of your content super easy for your audience. Upload artwork for your release, edit the information, and apply links to all of the streaming platforms your music is going to be available, which of course on DistroKid is potentially all of them that exist now and even in the future. Add social media buttons so your audience can find you and your latest music video. Creating a beautiful landing page with a preview of your music is easy with Hyperfollow. Hyperfollow links can be created for all of your releases, and it enables you to create pre-save links for your audience to pre-order your music before it's released. This link is shareable on all of your platforms and a great way to promote your next release, only with DistroKid.
Would you say there was a pinnacle of like an example of your career where, I suppose Bob was a good example of that, because you did just take a punt and then you and Bob Horn just obviously like the relationship blossomed from there. But have you got a really big example where you just, you've seen an opportunity where you were like, no, what? They did a really good job on that record. I'm actually just going to take a pot shot and connect with them, and then it's kind of just blossomed into this big relationship that's just spanned out for you.
There are multiple instances of that. Like I can't pick one. I think so many producers and mixers who have done great work, I'll always give them their flowers and give them credit and show gratitude towards them, and then things down the line happen. The thing, and the thing I don't want people to get messed up with this on is to hear this and be like, oh, I have to spam every single person I've ever worked on and try and get a job. Like that. If you do that, no, people don't give a shit about that. No, people aren't giving handouts and whatnot. You know what it is? Amongst professionals, there's a mutual respect that people give one another. And it's done without expectation in terms of, oh, you're going to give me work because I think you're good at what you do. No, it's a mutual respect and encouragement to support. Paul, I support you. Ed, I support you. Paul, when you put out the record last week, I supported you. Do you give a shit about sending me anything for mastering? Maybe, maybe not. Does that matter to me? Not one bit. Why? Because you're good at what you do. I appreciate what you do. And I'm going to tell it to people. I'm going to go, hey, this is freaking great. This is awesome. So that's where I don't want people to get their wires crossed. With what you said about your friend who got you 6 gigs and whatnot, something I observed, and this was probably like 6-7 years ago, this is way pre-pandemic life, is that musicians who are working are connected to musicians who are working. Online, people who are online and think of it like this, and you'd know this from the live scene, Ed. When you have to solve a problem at a gig, okay, people are asking, oh, how do you connect this DI, or how do you work this, or whatnot, or how do I get this? I'm not really familiar with the live scene too correctly, but people will converse and they'll connect with people. They'll know who's the go-to person if they need A, B, or C.
Well, I know that's true, and I get that example, exactly that, regularly, because when I do gigs, I regularly get told, oh yeah, I was having a conversation with so-and-so about interfaces and your name come up and I sent them to your channel. That conversation has happened so many times where other people are talking about my YouTube channel without me being privy to it or realizing it. So going back to what we were talking about earlier, if I can tie the channel towards mixing, that will then get out with the circles I already have, potentially. Because some of them, we've talked about it. I've worked with people who are doing some seriously big gigs for big artists.
And with that, for Paul, I'm not meaning to put all the attention on Paul here, but his connection, all those artists are connected with this person, which means all those artists are talking, not just amongst themselves, but to also their connections in their network. So it's people in the industry are in the industry talking to one another. They're not necessarily going on Google how to mix a song. They're going to get on their friend and be like, hey, I saw you release this album. Who mixed it? Oh, you were recording the other month. Where were you recording? They're going to go through those avenues because they're connected in that way. And that's how the industry will always have an organic sort of network or web like that, because people there's a trust factor, there's a connection factor. If you've got a carpenter that you've used that's done a really good job and somebody has to put up a fence, you're going to go, oh, use my guy. Save the Googling.
Yeah, word of mouth. And I think that's what I took for granted. But again, it's that naivety, Nicholas, I suppose, that it's unless you have somebody sit down with you and, tell you these things, you're not going to know. And you're going to probably, fart around on YouTube and assume that, all these subscribers are going to, get you a successful career. Where what everybody in the industry has told me, you included, has always been, right, where is your bread and butter, right? What is your bread and butter? Artists, right? Who work with artists? Producers. Can you get producers? No. Right, well, you've got to go get artists. You've got to go to gigs. You've got to contact ones that you really like and say, hey, I really, really like that song you put out there. I would love to work for you on your next record. Here's my details. And again, it's not spamming. It's just showing passion.
Yeah, I've been doing that. There's a couple of artists on Instagram that I'm following and I'm supporting and I'm reposting stuff and messaging them, commenting on stuff and showing support. And I've reached out to them and said, I've reached out to a bunch of artists and said, if you need help with stuff, anything from demos, full-on mixing, mastering, I'm happy to help. I'd love to work for you and do something for you. And said, love to do something for free for you. This isn't fishing for work. And even doing that is hard. People have their own teams. One or two people have seemed offended that I've even suggested the idea to detract from their team. Yeah, I've had one or two. Maybe I've not phrased it right, but I like to think I've phrased it as respectfully and politely, as possible. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I've got the wrong impression.
Would you say that you've done took enough risk where you've went to these artists and you've said, I really like your work that much. I would love to do one free mix for you. I'd love to work on one record with you to see if it works.
I've had that conversation with about a dozen artists and not one thing has come through yet.
Wow, that's surprising, eh? That's really surprising to me.
It's like, hang on, I can't even give away a fucking free mix. How shit am I? But I don't believe for a second that's the case.
No, that's not the case.
What have you been asking of them? As in, like, what has the actual ask? Has it been to remix a song that's already out?
No, I've not done that.
No, okay, yeah, all right.
I've been tempted, but that is a recipe to insult people, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
It is, yeah.
So no, I've not done that, but it's hey, are you doing any, the conversation goes, hey, I loved your new single, taking a leaf out of some of your emails, Nick, inquire, where did you record it? So I've reached out to these people and say, hey, love this new single, really great sound. I've asked them something, where have you recorded it? Who's the producer? Have you done this, etc.? Are you working on new stuff? Often the conversation dies there. And if not, it's gone on to, we've got some things on the go. And I've said, I would love to do a mix for you for free. Let me know. And at that point, you've either offended them because they've got their team, or they're not interested because they've got their team, or they're open to the idea and then maybe forget. So there's been opportunities and times when I've followed that up. And sometimes a couple of them have said, yeah, great, this sounds great. We'd love to do it. We'd love to get a different perspective, or we're not sure which direction we're going in. And then it's a case of maintaining the support on social media with the comments, the likes, the sharing stuff, hey, I've just seen you've got this gig, great. Or going to gigs, I've got gigs that I'm going to later in this year for artists that I've found on Instagram. Those kind of things, showing face, genuinely trying to show support. And then it's a case of, they're recording, they're compiling files. Then it's just, waiting for them to kind of do stuff on their end whilst maintaining this presence. And sometimes people forget. One band ended up doing it themselves, which is fine. So there's a whole litany of reasons why things may not be coming through.
You have to look at who's hiring and firing, because let's say a producer's working on it and they're the one who's booking the recording studio. They're the one who's picking the mixing engineer. You don't want to undermine the producer in the process of reaching out to the artist. When you show support and you're offering a free mix, quote unquote, you have to have you have to fill in a lot of contextual gaps. If you blanket and be like, oh, can I mix your stuff? Can I mix your stuff? Like I did that when I was starting 10, 11, 12 years ago. And what I realized quickly is it wasn't really the artists not often, a lot of the times for the people I was reaching out to, it wasn't the artists making the decision who mixed it. The producer put it together, so they're using their mixer, or we recorded it here and they're mixing it as part of their fee. So what's important is to tap into who's hiring, who's firing, and know that ahead of reaching out to somebody. You know, go on Apple Music, find the liner notes or Discogs or wherever, see or go in their tagged feed on Instagram, see where they're recording or which producers have tagged them, and then go to the producers and be like, hey, love your work on this.
Really there he appreciate is. The mix. There it is.
And then don't necessarily offer a free mix for that specific artist. Be like, hey, really enjoyed it. The mix was great as well. That mixing engineer did a great job. I want to hear more of your work. You don't have to say I'm going to mix it. That is a recipe for just putting people on the defensive, because like, what do you ask for? So it's more, what can you offer in terms of just want to hear what you're working on. If you've got things that you work on, I'd love to get my ears across them and connect with your work. I've got stuff that I've got in the works. If like, here's some stuff I've done, just to connect on a mutual level of respect. You know, like a mutual level of the same reason you would send me a mix to listen to, Ed, is the same reason you'd send another producer. So you want to know who's hiring, who's firing. I think that's probably the better thing than just shooting off to artists, because sometimes artists have no say who even the mixing engineer is or the producer, because they're locked into the politics of everything else around creating the record.
A lot of the times, what I'm noticing on Instagram, a lot of artists are working with a producer who's then doing the mixing and mastering. They're doing everything. And it's hard to break into that. Well, it's impossible.
At the end of the day, Ed, right, we're going to have Liam McCluskey coming on, who is a Scottish producer. So he works for Warner, okay? He got a publishing deal with Warner. So he's getting in a lot of young female artists in, right? So if I was to be, you know, oh yeah, I really, really, really like your stuff, blah, 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 and I was to go straight to the artist, you know, that artist, as you said, Nick, they don't get the choice. Like, Liam has already been appointed to be the producer, to be the mixer. He's already been appointed, and that chain is already in there. So by you being like, yeah, I'll throw you a free mix, all you're probably going to do is, you know, I don't even say it would fuck off the artist, but it puts the artist in an uncomfortable situation. So they just go, yeah, I'm not even going to entertain that, because at the end of the day, if they're signed, to them, they're advanced. They don't even see it. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, to them, it's almost like they're getting it for free. You know what I mean?
These people aren't signed because,
okay. So they've not got production teams or anything like that.
Yeah, not emailing Imagine Dragons.
But as Nick said though, it could just be the case of not even signed, but they are working with a producer who has already established that connection and relationship. They're loyal to them. But again, what we're to feel for you, Ed, is that it's very difficult to know that. But I suppose what Nick's saying is that sometimes maybe just before you press that message button, you maybe just do a little bit of research. Yeah, it's a bit of just a research to say, right, okay, yeah, they do have a producer. You know, for example, right, you'll always notice that artists will do behind the scenes. So you'll notice that, you know, it'll be like recording the next single. Look at what studio they're in. Look at who's at the desk and be like, right, okay, maybe they're already tapped up. I think that's maybe why the thing that I'm trying just now in Scotland is working, because the way I've positioned it as new artists, like people looking to, you know, they've probably never even done it before, to say, right, new Scottish artists, I'm giving you an opportunity, because I've already getting like people emailing me saying, thank you so much for this opportunity. Like, this is something that I really, really want to give a go of. But, you know, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't really know how it went. I couldn't afford it, or blah, blah, blah. So hopefully when I get them in, if it goes well, then it could be a case where, as, you know, Nick said, you know, it's about, or again, what you said, Ed, about, you know, trying to find, you know, a budget for that client, where even though I've done it for free, it's went that well that I'm like, right, let's establish how much your budget is. Very similar to when I used to be in sales and retail. The first thing I would do, as I've said loads of times, is what's your budget? And can I meet that budget? So if I start a good relationship with them, and I maybe say, right, I might have to do this fucking single for, I don't know, say it was like 300 quid a song or something like that. I don't know off the top of my head. But they were to say, right, I can afford that £300 now. for this single, but I'm going to do 4 singles with you. All right, okay, cool. So that drip feed's going to come through. And it's that case of the more they work and the more they take it seriously, the more like they feel more confident about themselves, then they might go, right, okay, I want to then, take this further. And that's when you could be like, right, okay, if you want to do X, Y, and Z, then that's going to cost you that much. But, if we're going to do that, then that's going to cost. And you could have those conversations because you've already built the relationship. You know what I mean? I think that's what Nick and other people are always telling us, is relationships first, business second.
With these artists, have you imposed any kind of filtration criteria, or have you literally taken 6 artists and you don't know them from Tom next door?
No. So what I'm doing is, in the Instagram post I put out, I intentionally put the phrasing and the terminology of send me the demos, and if I think that it works for the 2 of us, then what I'll do is I'll then get back in touch with you.
So requesting a demo is a smart move because that is already a filtration, because you've filtered out those who haven't ever recorded before and have no experience, because the last thing you want to be doing for free, in my opinion, is coaching people how to sing into a microphone or, don't get me wrong, being a vocal producer on a session, there is an element of that, maybe, but if you remember the days when you were a rank amateur and you were trying to plug the wrong end of an XLR cable, into a jack or something. Do you know what I mean? We've all been there. I don't necessarily know if you want to be working with those people. Unless it happens that they're so technologically challenged, but they're incredible songwriters.
That's the thing, Ed. It's the potential,
I
it's
just
the vessel.
Personally, I feel with that approach, it's needle in a haystack territory of it's scattergunning shit at the wall, right? If I do enough free stuff, some of it'll stick, but you might get to mix 1,000 and be like, yeah, none of these guys have taken off.
Yeah, but it's not even about taking off, because at the end of the day, it's a business. So I don't give a shit if they get signed.
Not if you're doing it for free all the time.
No, but that's why, again, I've said 1. So I do 1. That's all it is. I do 1 and I take the risk. So again, if it goes really well, the reason that they've went through the process is because they want to make music. So if it goes really well, it's like anything else in life. If you give somebody a really good experience, they'll want to do that again, and they'll want to do it properly.
But what about the whole internet that wants something for free?
But then that's why I've got a filtration, as I said. So again, if I feel that there's somebody there that I'm like, this isn't going to work well for me, it's not going to come out well. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm wanting to work with artists that portray me in a positive light, that, I know that I could work with, and I know that, they've, again, so a few of the artists that I've got in touch, I've worked on stuff already, have released stuff. Again, especially 2 or 3 of them have released stuff.
That is a filter.
It sounds good
as well. Yeah, you've okay. So fair enough. It sounds like you've got a selective process.
Yeah, and you need to be selective.
Maximize your potential for success. Yeah, okay.
You do 100%.
I think it's 2 things, and I'm going to be really cheeky to you, Ed. Number 1, it's proof of concept, so it shows the work. But number 2, it's I'm not going to ask you to disclose it, but however much you spent on your marketing campaign for the ads can be equivalent on this as a loss leader. So this is purely a loss leader.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's like how much you spend on the marketing, how many mixes worth did you spend on marketing is the equivalent of however many free sessions you could have done, had proof of concept and put it out there.
Yeah, that's not cheeky. That's a very good point. Yeah, it's speculating to accumulate.
Yeah,
and both of them come back to time. I've speculated. I mean, I'll be honest. I spent 500 quid on my marketing guy to do a month's promo, and it was close to 500 quid in ad spend, and I got 1 client off the back of that. But I got a load of inquiries and a whole heap of vanity metrics on Instagram, and some brand awareness, which you can't quantify. So if I were to put that down to say, somebody hired me £300 a mix, that's 3 and a bit mixes. Or another way of looking at that would be, say, 3 days work. Or if I'm doing a sound day rate, that's 3 days, 2 or 3 days work that I've given away for free to speculate for what ultimately resulted in some brand awareness and Facebook screenshots.
Yeah. I'm going to juxtapose that. I'm not going to juxtapose. I'm going to warn that with people listening that both of you actually have a really good sense of your boundaries.
Yeah, you need to.
And
you need to.
Where the line is and what you're comfortable with.
Are they too firm though? Because I had this chat with MSM where I came to mixing from a very established and successful and lucrative live sound business and as a drummer. And I had a set amount that my time and skill sets were worth. And I quickly wanted to take that on in the studio, knowing, but just not quite been humble enough to accept I was coming to a new industry from the beginning as a nobody. And I have to remember the amount of gigs I did for free before I started getting
100%.
paid gigs as a drummer. And it's a case of, can I actually wind my boundaries back to the point where I am prepared to totally humble myself and work for free and build up a client basis around that. And that this week is kind of where I've got to, which then goes back to pricing, because as we know, if you price yourself at £100, people think you're worth £100.
Yep,
they don't
100%.
read the headline that's for a 2-channel mix.
Yep, 100%.
They see so-and-so people spamming Instagram are £100 a mix. That doesn't make them look good, because that's cheap, and we judge people by how we value things. But then if you're trying to be doing stuff for free, you can't be doing some stuff for free and the clients who are finding you charging them, because if they ever spoke, or do you know what I mean? I overthink and get in a bit of a pickle of like, I've charged them this and I've charged them that. That's not fair. I need equality. And do you know what I mean?
This is where there's boundaries set up. It's like, I'm doing this for a limited period of time. This is how many I'm doing for a limited period of time. This is for who it is. This is the scope of it. That you've got your filters there, so it only accepts certain people, and then you reassess. And the reason why I wanted to flag the boundaries thing is because I don't want listeners to come on here and think, oh, I need to do spec mixes all the time, or I always need to be in a constant flux of doing free stuff, because people who don't have the mental bandwidth to set up those boundaries will quickly get themselves into a position where you've got, like you said, that other mixing engineer who's $100 a mix or super cheap and doesn't offer revisions. They end up resenting the process. They end up getting in their own head where their mental state won't ever support them moving past just hating the work. And that's where you get those, we've all seen them on our YouTube channels, people commenting, those, I don't know how old they would be, but I would assume I always think of this old grumpy man who's jaded and like, oh, the industry's dead and you can't have a career in mixing because, you can't charge this, or it's all, like those sort of negative people, because it's just, I just want to warn that to listeners. So people, before you jump into doing any spec work or free work, not that that's the be all and end all, actually, before you do any work, period, paid or not, or even endeavor to do a task, you have to set boundaries for yourself so you can measure it and feel comfortable at the end that you haven't taken advantage of yourself in a sense.
Yeah, totally. And know what, I think, because I just know that Nick is a very, very busy man, and we've been at this for an hour and 10 minutes. So I think the best way to end this episode, and again, Nick, thank you again so much for your time. So appreciated, because this has been another great, great episode. I think what the best thing for us to do is to take the conversation that we've had. No, let's say New Year, right? Let's say near the end of the year, 3 of us are going to come back on this podcast and we're going to talk about how our journey has been from what we're talking about now. So again, I'll talk about how the free mixing side of it has went, because I've got a very, very, very good chance at getting paid work from a guy who's already was in a big band, in the Big Naughties band, had a number one, the whole shebang. I've got a good chance of getting that gig. I need it, but I'm going to need to do a few spec mixes. All the things that I've been putting into place and all the things that Ed's have been putting into place, I think it'd be great to do a recap episode and kind of discuss how that's went. Because at the end of the day, I might do all of that and I get hee-haw back in return. But I might end up in 6 months, well, not 6 months, sorry, it'd be 4 months, and say, unbelievable, guys, the amount of people that know me locally now, and I've had so much more inquiries, because I think at the end of the day, we've not done it yet, so we can't really say if it's going to work, or it is, or it's not. But yeah, I think it'd be a great idea to maybe recap this, and near the end of the year, give ourselves 4 months, and then see how things are. Because
do you want to know something, Paul? I was thinking about your doing free mixes the other day in my kitchen, and I thought, I've got a feeling this is going to lead to Paul getting a Grammy.
I finally get Lewis Capaldi. Finally I get Lewis Capaldi in.
And if it does, amazing.
Yeah. But you can only dream. But at the end of the day, right, as much as it would be, sometimes kind of like, oh, I'm Scottish, it's not going to happen. That man that's sitting right there with us, Latin Grammy.
Just for clarification, they're nominations. They're nominations, not awards. So
even still, right, a nomination's fucking like a huge thing because you got to go as well. Like you actually got to get the tux on and like go to the Latin Grammys as well.
No, I went to the main Grammys for the Grammy nomination.
Oh, is that what I
two.
see? I don't know how it works.
Yeah, so the Latin Grammys are in Miami in October and the main Grammys in LA early Feb. So I went to the main Grammys because I had a nomination there as well. So
look at him, Ed. Look at him. Just fucking, he's just rising all the time, is he, Ed? Just fucking, we're down here and Nicholas is just looking down at us from above.
No. It was, it was a good series of fortunate events, and it's a credit to the artists and the team. I'm just sort of along for the ride. I'm the flea on the elephant's back, so to speak.
But still, again, I know, very humble, but again, us two, I'll always give you credit where credit's due, Nick.
Yeah.
The reason you are where you are is because the amount of hard work and dedication that you've put into the craft. So,
Paul, I think we should also, as well as have an accountability episode, give ourselves some tasks to do that accountability.
I was about to say the same thing.
Paul, yours is still to go to gigs between now and the end of the year, which I know you haven't been to one yet. And I think I had to go to 6 studios between now and the end of the year, and I think I'm on 4.
Laura has said to me, she's like, Laura has said, no, like Ed did put that to you, so yeah, I'm gonna.
So for this episode, we need some accountability projects. Mine, I think, is gonna be. I think I should be doing a spec mix a week for an up and coming artist. Optimistic?
That's a big task, yeah.
This is when I get set up and running in my new studio. If I can get air conditioning, which I might not be able to get. And then it's going to basically be unworkable.
The Dyson Air ones, are they loud? Oh, no.
It's about ventilation. I can't have the windows open because it's noisy. Anyway, there's a whole YouTube channel dedicated to this. Video 2 is out.
So, I think spec mix is pretty ambitious, but if you can do it,
one a week, or is that 2? I don't know if I could do that. I'm not going to commit to that. I'm going to commit to 5 artists between now and the end of the year. No, I'm going to match Paul 6.
Ah, there he is. There's the Working Audio Tales competition.
And on that ginger bombshell. It's been emotional. Nick, do you have any final words to round us off with? Just before you do, though, do check out Nick's mailing list in the description and his wonderful YouTube channel, and we will be seeing Nick very soon. Over to Nick to round off with a pearl of wisdom. No pressure.
Pearl of wisdom. No. I think all I can leave is that I'm really excited to see you guys put this into action. My thing would be, with whatever you do, how much documenting and visibility you can get from each step.
Yeah,
so for each mix,
very true.
For each studio you visit, for each gig you go to, what is the visibility you gain from it, and what do people see from it? So it's not sort of all done in the shadows and then lost. Like I said, and I think, you know what? We're going to end this podcast, but as we end it, I think, Paul, can you plug the track which you worked on that got released last week? Because I think that's all everybody who listens to the Working Audio Tools podcast, that is literally the trophy on the pedestal, is when something we work on goes out into the world, and I think that's where we have to leave our flowers with for the end of the episode. So, Paul, I'll let you plug that.
Yes. Again, Nicholas, thank you for reminding me of that. So, yes, if you can, check out My Time, and if you watch this podcast, you will know that I was with Marv Sibble, and again, he did that, with his own team, and again, there's a great story behind that. But know what I'll do? I'll link that episode in the description so you can hear my mix, Ed mix, and the journey, because we did 2 episodes. One where me and Ed did a mix for Marv, and then went back to it, and then did the revisions and stuff, and we found out who got the mix. Thankfully, it was me that got the mix, but again, Ed did a cracking mix as well. So yeah, check that out. It's now being released. My Time, Marv Sibble watches the podcast, been on the podcast. My name's Paul Third. Ed Thorne, Nicholas De Lorenzo. Thanks so much for your time. Thank you, DistroKid, again, for sponsoring this podcast and keeping the studio lights on. And yeah, it's been emotional. And yeah, I will steal that off Ed, and we'll see you next week.